Pardons are typical at the end of any president's term. They are often controversial as well. But imagine President Trump trying to pardon advisors like Rudy Giuliani or his own children or even himself. Steve Farnsworth is joining us. Cory Crowley is joining us, two of our favorite commentators here on CTV News Channel when it comes to U.S. politics. Steve, what do you make of this alleged scheme?
Well, it certainly requires a great deal of investigation. As you say, this is a common practice among presidents in the final weeks of a term. They pardon people who are friends, sometimes people who might not be particularly contrite, but it is how it happens. It's already happened, of course, with President Trump and General Flynn, and all indications are that there'll be plenty more pardons between now and January. The problem, though, about trying to pardon yourself is a particularly difficult one. There's an old English common law tradition that says you shouldn't be a judge in your own case. And so if Trump pardons himself, and he might do so, it's likely to significantly involve the courts in terms of whether it's legitimate or not.
What do you think, Cory, about this? Alleged bribes for pardons?
Yeah, I mean, as Stephen noted, it's not uncommon to have this happen at the end of a term. It's also not uncommon for it to be questioned and investigated. Bill Clinton famously pardoned a whole slew of his friends right before he left office, and that was investigated for months and months. In fact, one of the people who was involved in that pardoning scandal of his is now nominated by Joe Biden to be Secretary of Homeland Security. So these are long-held traditions, sadly, in Washington, D.C. I agree that the precedent of pardoning yourself would be a difficult one. I suppose you could also resign at 8 o'clock the morning of the January 20th and let Mike Pence pardon him quick before they head up to Biden's inauguration. But we'll just have to see how clever they get with it all and how it unfolds.
You know, I've never heard of sort of a preemptive pardon, though, Steve. Like, I haven't even been found, necessarily guilty of anything, but I'm going to kind of give myself a get out of jail free, perhaps actually jail out of free card in advance.
Well, certainly that can happen. The pardon of General Flynn, for example, not only covered the things that he's been pled guilty to and convicted of, but also covers other things that he might have done when he was working for President Trump. So certainly the idea of a preemptive pardon is not a particularly new ground legally to cover, but as you say, very controversial. What's particularly problematic, though, for the president, even if he tries to pardon himself, is that presidential pardons can only cover those things that represent federal crimes. And the president and his team, including the other people he might pardon, members of his family, Rudy Giuliani, they may also face potential issues with respect to New York state law, particularly with respect to securities violations, insurance fraud allegations. There are a lot of things that the New York Attorney General is looking into as best we can tell. They involve a lot of issues of potential corruption involving the Trump businesses, as well as those payoffs to porn stars and other celebrities to keep quiet in the run-up to the 2016 election.